That was just a quick peek at the new game I've been working on. I'll go more in depth on it later in the video. It's been a long while since my last video. I was constantly second guessing the decisions I was making for the game I was working on at the time, which just made it harder to work on. Then I started a new job, which was kinda like a nail in the coffin, I guess. I still intend to return to it, but there would be some changes, and I'd want to make more concrete plans for what the game is going to be before I start working on it again. But it's not like I haven't been doing anything since my last video. While watching my buddy play Daggerfall and finally actually finishing Oblivion myself, I was in a pretty big Elder Scrolls mood at the time, so I made a little personal project mostly inspired by Skyrim and the indie game titled Delver. The inventory and equipment system is inspired by Skyrim, where you can equip items on each hand, though I took it a bit further, allowing you to pick and choose which hand holds your sword or your shield. You can even dual wield shields if you want to. The combat system is where the Delver inspiration comes from. In that game you just hold down the attack button to charge an attack, releasing the button to inflict it, dealing damage relative to how long you charge the weapon. But I wanted more mechanics to make combat more engaging. The first thing that came to mind was of course blocking. One thing that always bugged me in Skyrim was how if you're dual wielding you can't block. That was to balance the increased damage output you gain from dual wielding, but I had something else in mind for that. I mapped blocking to the control key, like in my favorite game ever, Dishonored. Now you can always block no matter what you have equipped. But what if you equip the shield and try to use it like a normal weapon? That's where the parry mechanic comes in. Something you can't do while dual wielding, which combats the balance issue I mentioned earlier. While parrying, you have a short window during the animation to negate all damage and apply knockback to the enemy. This, plus the stamina system, made combat much more engaging, and I just had a lot of fun working on this project. But the will to work on it quickly died down when my Elder Scrolls mood went dwindling. However, me and my cousin have some ideas for a cool Elder Scrolls inspired game that we want to make, so who knows what happens with this project. Then I played the Resident Evil 2 remake, which led me to make a little drag and drop inventory using the Game Jam game I made in one of my devlogs as a base. This was mainly just to keep my creative juices flowing and to challenge myself, since I've never worked on that kind of system before. I had ideas for a first-person Resident Evil inspired game I wanted to make, but that never really went anywhere. Then I revisited an older project of mine that I've never shared on this channel before called Kill the Pigs. It's a first-person raids game where you have these cool telekinetic abilities, which is all fine and dandy, but the guns, they don't really act like you would expect in normal FPS games. They have weird physics applied to them, making them extremely unpredictable and hard to control. Which is why I call it an FPS raids game, and if my friends are anything to go by, it succeeds quite well at the raids part. But again, this is more of a personal project I can torture my friends with, not necessarily something I intend to finish and release to the public. But hey, you never know. And that actually brings us to my current project, which is going pretty well. And I'm getting pretty sick of working on games only to never release them, so I fully intend to finish this one, making sure to keep it not so ambitious as most of my previous projects have been. It's a retro first-person action / horror-ish game, not really sure what to categorize it if I'm completely honest, but I have a pretty solid plan of what I want it to be. The retro look allows for much faster development, especially when it comes to asset creation, and I also just really dig the atmosphere I've achieved with it. I had made this little first-person retro game starter kit and was looking for ideas of what I wanted to make. One day I was just experimenting in Blender and ended up making this little corridor, which I thought looked kinda cool, so I put it into Unity and goddamn, that's hot. Right there and then I knew I was either going to make a game taking place under water or in deep space. Fast forward just about 2 weeks and I have this. It's still very work in progress and rough around the edges, but I really like what I have so far with this kind of abstract spaceship environment and its atmosphere. I want to try and keep the HUD minimal while still conveying the necessary information to the player, like you see with the TV at the beginning and the door control terminals. You probably noticed the ominous pulsating floating entity in the locked hallway. I had this idea in my head for a simple yet cool enemy that shouldn't be too hard to make. So I went into Blender, created an icosphere and pulled at some of the vertices, using blend shapes to create this pulsating effect. Then I just set him up in Unity, using the same model for the body, inner red shape and the projectile, all with just different pulsating parameters. Did some weird shader magic and bam! I think it looks pretty awesome, even if I do say so myself. Some of the main things I kept in mind when creating it was that it should stand out, which it freaking does. I mean, it literally glows. It should also be easy to read, meaning that the player should instantly know what state it's in, which is what the red icosphere inside it is for, but it also doubles as a way to know when he's about to fire his projectile. So all in all, I think he's a pretty solid enemy. And that's pretty much what I've done so far, excluding the hacking mechanic that I just started working on, which I'll probably show off in the next video, which should not take as long as this one did. No, but seriously, thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on the next devlog. Liking the video would also be appreciated. Peace.